Alright guys, so another Pokemon video here real briefly. I did want to cover the announcements and stuff we got during Pokemon Day last week. I was hoping to get this out sooner, but I wanted to finish watching my playthrough of Legend ZA and wanted to get the damage report for that out first before I dove into all this. So anyway, I'm going to run through this as fast as I can. I don't really have a ton to say about all this. We got the traditional Pokemon Day Presents. It was a 25-minute long video or thereabouts. Again, like always, most of it was spent on mobile trash and shit I don't care about, so not even talking about any of that. I don't really have anything to say about the weird, overpriced Game Boy-shaped music player thing that they're releasing. I don't even know what the fuck's going on with that. There's really just three things that I want to talk about here. The first of which is something that wasn't even announced during Pokemon Day. It was announced several months ago, and I just haven't had an opportunity to talk about it yet, which is the Pokemon Pokopia game, which is coming out pretty soon, actually. I think it's out one day this week on Switch 2, which this game is an actual proper Pokemon spin-off game that's not fucking mobile garbage. So that's automatically a win in my book. We barely ever get proper spin-off games anymore in a post-Pokemon Go world. Almost every spin-off they come out with is some kind of retarded-ass, free-to-play, online, mobile bullshit piece of garbage. And very rarely do we get a proper spin-off game. We've gotten a few. We got new Pokemon Snap. We got the Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team remake or whatever. But this is an actual all-new spin-off game. Koei Tecmo is involved in it, I believe. So, this game, I've seen a few trailers for it. They released a new trailer during the Pokemon Day Presents. They did a, almost hour-long Nintendo Treehouse segment on this game. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I want to, but I haven't gotten around to it. But based on what I've seen of this game, it actually looks pretty good. It's basically like Pokemon crossed with Animal Crossing, crossed with Minecraft a little bit. Kind of reminds me of Dragon Quest Builders. The team that made that game might be involved in this, actually. I can't remember. But overall, it looks like a pretty fun game. You play as a Ditto that transforms into a human girl for some reason. So you kind of look like a little girl, but you got like the Ditto face. And you're kind of building up a little, I don't know if it's supposed to be an island or what it's supposed to be, but it's an area where you can basically build a little Pokemon town and make houses for the other Pokemon, and it's got, terraforming and landscaping, and you can build little gardens and farms and things like that. So it actually looks like a pretty fun little game. Something different, stepping into a new genre for a Pokemon spin-off, I think is something good. It's something that I wish we could get a lot more of, actually, that, isn't infested with mobile nonsense. So, this actually seems interesting to me. I might actually play this at some point. I want to see, some more of it once it comes out. Now, if I do play it, I'm not going to be playing it anytime soon, because, for one thing, it's Switch 2 exclusive, and I don't have a Switch 2, and am not getting one in the near future. So, that's one problem. But the other problem and the only real complaint I have about this game so far is that they're doing the stupid game keycard bullshit with this game, which I absolutely hate. In my book, that means it's a digital-only release. So, it's a digital-only game that's on Switch 2, and I don't have and am not getting a Switch 2 at the moment. So, far down the road, when I eventually get a Switch 2, I might play this game, but yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon. But overall, I generally have a positive view of it based on, the little bit of pre-release information we have. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. So that was one thing I want to talk about. The second big thing was the fact that they are porting Pokemon FireRed and Pokemon LeafGreen versions to the Switch 1. Which, I actually really like this news for several reasons. One thing, it's not a part of the NSO service locked behind a subscription. These are straight up available for individual purchase on the eShop. which makes me very happy as someone who has lamented the loss of the Virtual Console on the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS, as someone who has wished that they would make all those old retro games that are on the NSO service available for individual purchase on the eShop. I'm glad that we are getting them in this fashion as opposed to locking them behind a subscription. Now, these are straight ports of the Game Boy Advance games from 2004. They don't really have any changes. They're not remasters, they're not remakes, they're not anything. They're the 2004 ROMs, just straight up play them on Switch. Now, they are $20 a piece, which is kind of high. I know people are complaining about the price. Is $20 too much for a Game Boy Advance game from 2004? Yeah, probably. They should probably be 10 at the most, really. Maybe 15. 20 a piece is pushing it. As for me, I have not bought these yet. And I am undecided if I'm going to get them or not. Logically, there's no real reason for me to, since I still have my original Game Boy Advance copies of these games. I have multiples of them, actually. So I can play the originals anytime I want. I got the original games. I got the original hardware. Obviously, if you want to dive into emulation and all that, that's very easily accessible if you want to jump through those hoops to do that. So there's no real reason for me to purchase these on Switch. However, I don't have any main series Pokemon games on the Switch because all the main series Pokemon games on Switch fucking suck balls. And I'm kind of desperate just to have a Pokemon game on Switch. So this is the only way I'm ever going to get a good Pokemon game on this fucking console, is a re-release of an old one from when they still made good Pokemon games. So I might bite the bullet and buy them just for that reason alone. The reason I'm undecided right now is, as of right now, these games, they're the Gen 3 games, so they got the Gen 3 National Dex in them, which is 386 Pokemon. Back in the day, to complete the National Pokedex in those games, you could not do it alone. You had to trade a lot of Pokemon in from the other Gen 3 games. And at least as of this recording, they have not said anything one way or another about whether or not they're going to release Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald in this same fashion. If they end up releasing those games on Switch as well, where I could get those and, trade amongst myself, that would require a second console, but I'll get a Switch 2 someday. If I can get the National Dex complete in these games, officially, I know you can use, arbitrary code execution in FireRed and LeafGreen now, but that aside, if they make an official non-glitch, non-cheating way to complete the National Pokedex in these games, I'll probably dive into them. Now, in order to do that, like I said, they'd had to release Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald in the same fashion. You won't have to release the GameCube games, Coliseum and XD, since they actually did add one small thing to these games. They added in the event tickets to take you to the islands to get Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Deoxys. That were, real-life events you had to get in the Gen 3 games back in the day. Those are just included in the game to begin with. I think you get them after you become champion. So you can get those 3 Pokemon naturally in the game now. If they release the Hoenn-based games where you can fill in, all the mons from those games, the only ones you won't be able to get would be Mew, Celebi, and Jirachi. Which there was an event ticket in Emerald that was Japan exclusive that took you to an island to get Mew. So if they release Emerald in the same fashion, they could include that ticket the same way they did for FireRed and LeafGreen with the Deoxys tickets and stuff. So if they do that, we'll be able to get Mew through that method. That'll leave us with just Celebi and Jirachi. I don't know what the solution for Celebi and Jirachi will be, since Jirachi required the US Coliseum bonus disc, and Celebi required the Japanese Coliseum bonus disc, outside of, just straight distribution events where you go and got the Pokemon downloaded into your game from like Toys R Us or whatever the fuck back in the day. which is one element of old Pokemon I actually don't miss. So I don't know how they would handle Celebi and Jirachi. I don't expect them to do like modern, go to a store events for these games. I wouldn't expect them to do something like that. So I don't know if they would just plop them somewhere randomly in the game or how they would handle that. But if they make Celebi and Jirachi obtainable somehow and release the Hoenn games, including the, the Old Sea map or Old Sea chart or whatever the fuck, the event item to get Mew and Emerald, if they do all that and I can complete the Gen 3 National Dex in these games, I might buy all of them. If they don't do that, I probably won't bother, because not being able to complete the National Dex in an official way will drive me up a wall for all of time. Yes, I know you can use Ace to do it. Okay, whatever. So I'm taking a wait and see approach on that. Again, I'm desperate for a main series Pokemon game that I can actually enjoy on Switch. So we'll wait and see. We'll see how it works out. I might possibly get those, or I might not, depending on what they do in the future. But I'm at least glad that they are releasing some of the old Pokemon games straight up, being able to buy them like that. I hope that trend does continue for the rest of Gen 3 and maybe some other generations too. Go back and re-release ports of the Gen 1 and 2 games like that, since the 3DS eShop is closed now and you can't get them on there anymore. Making them available on Switch would be great. Go into the future generations. Give us Gen 4, Gen 5, whatever. On the GameCube side, they are releasing XD Gale of Darkness, but it is tied to the NSO subscription bullshit. And that subscription-based version of XD will not be compatible with FireRed and LeafGreen, unfortunately. So there won't be any interaction there. And I don't know if Coliseum's getting released or not in any fashion. So, yeah, there's no compatibility there. They did confirm that compatibility for Home is coming, but it's going to be a one-way transfer going from FireRed and LeafGreen into Home. So you won't be able to complete the decks via Home or anything like that. So, yeah, we'll wait and see on that, but generally I'm glad that they're going down that road and getting the older Pokemon games more accessible in some fashion, where people don't have to, sell the 7 Cs or pay an absolutely ridiculous amount for those old physical copies of those games off of eBay now. So, overall, a good thing. So then, of course, the last thing I got to talk about here is, of course, the announcement of the Generation 10 Pokemon games. We knew this was coming. This year's the 30th anniversary of the franchise, so we knew we were going to get a Gen 10 announcement, which we did. So the games are called Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves, which last year there was a giant leak that gave a lot of information on, a very early in development version of these games. And this trailer didn't show much, since it was just the reveal trailer, but everything that the trailer showed so far did line up with what we saw in the leak. Now, that doesn't mean every single thing in the leak will still be true, since that was early in development, and we don't know how much stuff is, changed or gone in a different direction or whatever in the meantime. But what we've seen so far does match up with the leak, and, we have a general idea of what some of the stuff that may be coming is. So as far as what we know for certain from the trailer, they didn't give the name of the region, but they showed a lot of, wide sweeping environmental shots and stuff. So it is an island-based region, apparently based on Indonesia. You're going to be traveling from island to island, and it looks like you'll be able to, go directly across the water and stuff. So a lot of people have been drawing comparisons to, Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Graphics-wise, it looked fine to me. Again, like I say all the time, I'm not a big graphics whore, so I think it looked okay. It definitely looked better than Scarlet and Violet. These games are Switch 2 exclusive, so, they got a little more power to work with. Again, we'll see how the performance ends up being. But visually, I thought it looked okay. The character designs, we did see the player characters. Again, a huge step up from Scarlet and Violet, but again, the bar was set pretty low with those games. These player characters do look a little bit better. mostly because their outfits aren't lame-ass looking school uniforms. Their outfits are different depending on which version of the game you get, but both of them I think look fine. They got some weird, like, hoverboard looking things. I don't know if that's what you're going to be using to travel across the water on or what. I'm not even totally sure if that's a hoverboard or not, but that's what it looks like to me. So, overall, the player character designs were fine. The only new Pokemon they showed were the starters, but we did get a look at all three of them. So, we got Brout, the grass-type starter, who's this little bird, baby chick looking thing. We got Pombon, who's the fire type, who's a Pomeranian little thing, who's very cute. Definitely probably going to be the most popular of the three. And then we got the water type starter, which was Gekwa, who's this little gecko thing, which also I think looks nice. Overall, I did like all three of the starter designs. I thought all of them looked good. Now, I said the same thing in Gen 8, and we all know how that turned out. Their evolutions looked absolutely terrible. So hopefully that's not the case here. Hopefully once these things evolve, they end up still looking cool. But at least for their base forms, I think all of them look nice. And that's pretty much all we got as far as hard info out of this trailer. Again, based on the leaks have been pretty accurate. I mean, even down to the titles, the winds and waves thing, even that was in the leak. So if you want to believe the rest of the leak, I didn't look into it hugely in depth, so I just skimmed it like several months ago. So I didn't do like a full deep dive or anything into it, but I know that a lot of details of this game got mentioned. There was talk about a, new generational gimmick that was like revival forms or reborn forms or something. Like when a Pokemon gets knocked out, they revive and change form or something. Beyond that, there's talk of some sort of legendary Pokemon that works like that game Spore, where you can have creatures that change into like an infinite number of forms. There's some Pokemon that is apparently supposed to look like that somehow. I don't know how that's going to work in context of a Pokemon game, but we might see if that ends up even being a thing or not. Again, take all this with a grain of salt because it's from a leak, so who knows how much of this actually gets into the final product. But there's rumors for the generational gimmick, there's rumors for the legendaries, there's rumors for all this. You can look into it more on your own if you want to. But based on hard info and what we know about it, and based on, my skimming of the leaks and what I think might possibly be coming, honestly, I don't even really know what to say about these games. It's modern Pokemon. It's going to be what modern Pokemon is. I've said it a million times. I'll say it until I keel over. I'm not buying a Pokemon game that doesn't have all the fucking Pokemon in it. And we already know this ain't going to have all the Pokemon in it. In fact, as soon as I got through watching this trailer, I went to the official site to try to see if I could see if they already had the little disclaimer up on the site or not, that they always put up saying like, oh, you can only transfer Pokemon from home into this game if they are present in this game. The standard Dexit disclaimer that they have on all their sites ever since Sword and Shield. I went to the official site and I looked for that, and it is not there right now. I'm sure it's coming. Pokemon Home was not mentioned at all on the site yet, and obviously we know these games are going to be compatible with Home. So once they confirm the Home compatibility, I'm sure the disclaimer will appear right alongside it. But as of right now, it's not there. Which they opened the Pokemon Presents video talking about how, there's 1,025 Pokemon now. Seeing that and then not seeing the disclaimer makes a teeny little piece of me want to believe that they're going to pull a Smash Brothers Everyone is Here moment for Generation 10 for the anniversary and have all the Pokemon in this game. But a much larger part of me is not retarded and knows that that's not going to happen. So I have zero hope of this game actually having all the Pokemon in it, even with a potential DLC, once this game's going to have DLC. They're making too much money off of this shit. So even post a DLC release, I don't expect it to have a complete National Dex in it. Even if they did manage to cram all the species of Pokemon into this game one way or another, it's not going to have all the past gimmicks and everything. like I said, there's rumors of a new generational gimmick. Whether those rumors are accurate or not, I'm sure there'll be some kind of new gimmick in these games. So the focus will be whatever the new gimmick is. If we're extremely lucky, we might get Mega Evolution in the game just because ZA just came out and people want to transfer over those Megas, maybe. But honestly, I even doubt it on that because the whole Pokemon Champions thing, which they also talked about, that game seems to be the game that's going to be the catch-all with all the Pokemon and all the gimmicks and all the shit in it. So they'll probably just tell you, oh, go play Champions. It's free to download. Blah, 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 blah. So I don't even really have any hope of even Mega Evolution being in this game, honestly. So I doubt there'll be Megas. There definitely won't be Z moves and maxing and terastallizing and all this other bullshit. So there's a 0% chance that we're going to end up with a true complete national dex, including all the gimmicks and forms and everything. And all the moves and all the other stuff, all the mechanics and everything else they've removed over time. So there's no way all that is coming back, and that's basically just a non-starter for me. So I can't bring myself to get excited about these games regardless of how decent the first trailer looked, or regardless of my feelings of the designs of the starters or any of that. Because ultimately I know I'm going to be pissed off when it comes out, and I'm not going to buy it, and I'm not going to play it, and I might suffer through a playthrough. I might not even do that. It took a lot out of me getting through Legends ZA. I don't know how much longer I can keep up doing these fucking watching playthroughs of them. So, what we saw looked fine, but ultimately I know it's just going to be more of the standard we've come to expect from the last two generations, which is an absolutely terrible standard that I have no desire to play. So, yeah. Gen 10's coming, whatever. I can't bring myself to give a shit at this point. So, yeah, I'm not going to be covering these games probably, as info comes out. We might not even get any info on them for a while because they did mention that these games aren't coming out until 2027, which I think is a good thing, actually. They definitely need to space out these releases more and, give them more of a development cycle to work on stuff. Don't know how much good any of that's going to do, but, it's definitely something that is a step in the right direction, at least. So, they might not even mention these games until Pokemon Day next year at this point. Who knows? So, every time they release a trailer, don't be expecting a video from me for every little thing that gets announced. If we get some kind of major earth-shattering news, if they come out and say, yeah, we're putting the National Pokedex back in, and all the Pokemon's in it, and all the gimmicks are in, and everything's in it, and hooray, wonderful news. If something like that happens, then I'll definitely cover it. But, yeah, that's definitely not happening. So, I probably won't be talking about these games much, if at all, until they release. And I don't even know if I'm going to talk about them then or not at this point. Well, we'll see how it works out. But, yeah. So, that was the big three things I wanted to cover. Pokopia looks good. FireRed and LeafGreen is cool. I may or may not get those. And winds and waves are coming, and I don't really give a shit. So, yeah. Happy Pokemon Day, everybody. So, anyhow, I guess that's all I got to say. So, lots of luck to you and yours.